Good afternoon. Welcome to Community and Technology. We connect the global community with news, information, and resources that we hope will help improve your life. I'm Stu Reid. Here's my co-host, Dave Burstein. Hey, Dave.
Hey, Stu, let's get some practical questions.
Okay.
What do you use when you're trying to find information?
Usually I use the standard search engines. I've been using DuckDuckGo as one of the ones that I go to. They don't do a whole lot of tracking of your activity.
A lot of people like DuckDuckGo because it respects your privacy more than things like Google.
Mm-hmm.
But more and more, I'm using these LLMs, these artificial intelligence modules,
That's
which
large
gives me a
language
whole
model
lot of
for our
information.
audience. I just wanted to throw it. We use the acronyms
I
all the time. Large language model. That's the LLM, the AI.
Yeah, the AI stuff
Mhm,
really gives me a good summary that for many things is much better than a pile of links.
mhm,
But a number of them are trying to make some money,
mhm,
and several are charging $20 a month,
mhm.
which is why I wanted to bring you the information that one of the best, Google's Gemini, is free
Wow.
and fast and powerful and does lots of interesting things.
Okay,
But
now
we've
break that
talked
down
about
for us. I know you mentioned a couple of weeks ago we were talking about it. How are the results different using a regular Google search versus using the LLM, which is called, I think Gemini is the name, right, Dave?
Gemini from
Yeah.
Google, one of them.
How do the results differ?
Well, when you do a search, it gives you traditionally it gives you a set of links, and you have to figure out which is most likely to have the information you want, and go to a few of them to find your information. The language models don't. They give you a summary of what they found on the web,
Mhm.
and that summary, more often than any individual link, has the information you're looking for. Now, Google knows this. So Google itself, you go to Google search, you may very well find that at the top there's a substantial little essay box that is done by their LLM. And that often has the answer. And that's why we talked about it a few weeks ago. It means a lot of businesses that are counting on getting links from Google search are going to get fewer links, including little things like the New York Times,
Mhm,
are
mhm.
all going to be affected by these language models doing a good job at finding information for you. Okay, now let me give you another usually free way to get into language models. It's called Poe, P-O-E, like the
Mhm.
poet. Poe.com has links to almost all the major language models, like 20 of them.
Really?
Yeah. And they charge you in credits that something that needs a lot of calculation, like doing an image, may be 200 credits, and a simple question is like 20 credits. But the good news is that every day you get 3,000 free credits. That's enough for 150 simple questions and 10 images. A very good deal, and it's a way you can get access to a lot of the artificial
Okay, so let's
intelligence.
run that back again, Dave. This is called Poe, P-O-E, and it sounds like it aggregates different LLM search engines. Is that what it does?
It's got a list of like 20 of them there.
Mm-hmm.
You pick out the one that you're interested in, which could be OpenAI, ChatGPT, could be Google Gemini, could be Grok, which is incredibly fast,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and so on and so forth. And it gives you a nice bundle of credits renewed every day that lets you use it for free.
Hmm.
They figure out they're going to make their money on the big corporate users so they can give it away for free to little folks like us.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
A good deal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when
And
I go
advertising?
to,
Oh, excuse me. Do they have advertising?
not now, but they probably will.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
Mm-hmm.
brand new.
Right. Okay. POE.
POE.com.
Mm-hmm.
Now, next, what do I put my search results or my language model results on? I put it on my wonderful 50-inch 4K monitor, which is so much sharper than anything less than 4K. And it's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And it has room for all the stuff I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this, Dave. You're a technical guy. I know I've got a monitor that's 4K. Now, admittedly, it's a low-end one. It's not high-end. It's inexpensive. But when I go back and forth between a 4K, this is a cable broadcast image on 4K versus non-4K, the difference is negligible. Should I be looking at other source material to really capture the advantages of 4K? What's your experience there?
Well, you're looking at video. Almost all that you get as 4K video is regular HD video or less that your TV upsamples to 4K and it doesn't do a very good job of it.
Right.
So it's nice and sharp. It is better than in HD. And you see the difference on big monitors, which are now affordable for all of us, or big TVs. When you're using it as a monitor, these big 4Ks are a pleasure. I can have so many windows open, be running so many different things all at the same time, and see it all right there in front of me. And it's sharp. It's a pleasure.
How big a monitor are you able to work with practically, Dave? Is there a limit? Can it be too big where it's just too much, or what's your experience?
Well, I'm using a 50-incher, and that is a delight. And what I wanted to bring to the air, and why I brought it up, because I said this before in the show, is that in the current sales, you can get a 50-inch TV, which I use as a monitor, for less than $200 in your favorite online retailer. And if you're spending time on a computer,
is that a 4K 50-incher, Dave, or regular HD?
That's a 4K. And on what you're using it on the internet, it really uses 4K. On video, it upsamples and gets you some improvement.
So it's really more effective and dramatic as a computer monitor as opposed to a television or video monitor.
Well, on the small ones, as you know, it doesn't make that big a difference. On the big TVs, which have come down so much in price, I can afford a 75-inch TV.
Yeah.
And I don't have much money. The 4Ks look really good. Not just because it's 4K, it's that they're new and they've been improving all the screens and everything else over the years. So it was a revelation when I saw that for $500, I could get a heck of a 75-inch TV, and we got it, and oh, does things look good. And that's not the best, but it's really, really good. Next new practical thing. Have you heard about the new Windows PC with Qualcomm chips?
Is that the one that remembers all of your moves and keeps track of all your activity? Is that the one?
Well, that's going to go. That was going to go into all of Windows PCs.
Okay.
They pulled it back. You now have to say you want it. It would keep track with screenshots of everything you've done for at least the last 5 days. I think the last 5 months, and maybe the last 5 years, which is kind of offensive and a violation of your privacy, even if you're just keeping it on your machine, because your machine can be cracked. Any machine can be cracked, and a home machine.
That feature by Microsoft is called Recall. Are you talking about something else, or is that what you're talking about?
This is something else.
Okay.
This is a new version of Microsoft Windows PCs. Until now, nearly all of them have been running on Intel chips and AMD chips, which are pretty much the same. That's what I've been using since about 1984. This is a different kind of chip that has some advantages. Qualcomm is the biggest maker in the United States of chips for cell phones. Cell phone chips have to use much less energy. So the result is, if you have a Qualcomm portable PC, when most people buy mobiles these days, the battery lasts twice as long.
Wow.
Which is really nice. And it's because it's using a cell phone oriented processor built on a different kind of chip. And the things to know are, yes, this is real. No, the Qualcomm Microsoft AI PCs are probably not for you now unless you have extra money, because they're more expensive. But there's no reason they will be more expensive in 6 months. They're not more expensive to manufacture. So that's going to come down. And it runs almost all the Windows software, almost all the time.
When you say almost, what doesn't it run? There exceptions.
A number of the fancy games are not working right.
Okay.
And there's been miscellaneous complaints. So it's mostly working, but it still has some bugs. So I wouldn't recommend it to anybody unless you really need that extra battery life.
Now how are they promoted? How will the average consumer recognize these models?
These are going to be the Microsoft AI PCs.
Okay.
With chips from Qualcomm and Windows from Microsoft. And most of the Microsoft AI PCs today are these Qualcomm ones because they have a nice AI accelerator. But Intel and everybody else are building AI accelerators, so that'll be in everything. So yes, in some stores you're going to be offered a new kind of PC. Yes, it has some advantages. Its battery life is good, but it's more expensive and it's not quite as compatible.
And what about the AI feature, Dave? I mean, I know we've talked a little bit about that in the past, but while we're talking about it, what are the advantages, if any, to purchase some of these new AI computers at this point? I guess this is first.
Okay. A working definition of an AI computer is a regular computer with an additional chip or additional transistors built into the main chip that runs AI faster. A neural processing unit, and that is actually, in less intensity, built into every cell phone you would be buying today for more than about $200. Because the same neural processing AI is being used by all the cell phones to improve your picture that you take in your photos. With a more powerful AI processor, you can run all kinds of things. For example, if I were talking French on this show and you were talking English, an AI PC, like the big AI models, would be able to give what I said immediately translated into English.
Wow. Translate on the fly. Wow.
Right. So what you can do with the AI PC is not run the biggest ChatGPT models, but you can run a heck of a lot of the stuff coming out of artificial intelligence. We talked about this on the air actually last November, when I looked at what the technology was and said that Apple was going to have it in the 2024 iPhone. And they will, and it's coming out in September, and it's going to have a lot of cool features. But Samsung and now Microsoft are also putting extra processing power for doing lots of AI stuff, like live translation in your language, in your voice clone,
wow,
on phones and the new AI PCs. Last practical thing I wanted to go to. Did you know that Jimmy Heath's big band is playing at Grant's Tomb Wednesday night this week?
I didn't know that. I know that they've been bringing in some really first-rate music. I know that last week they had a young sister that we had at our Juneteenth celebration last year named Sharonay Wade, and she's a sensation. When I saw her a year ago, she did a whole program dedicated to I'm blanking, Dave. Dedicated.
It was on Juneteenth, so you can guess what it was.
Yeah. Gil Scott-Heron. That was it was a Gil Scott-Heron fanatic, and she did a bunch of his tunes and kind of reworked them. Really brilliant. But then she was
she happy?
Well, Gil Scott or
her, the singer.
Yeah.
She's happy.
She's upbeat. And she was just last week at Jazzmobile doing a tribute to Sarah Vaughan. So that caught my attention. I wasn't able to make it, but I said, wow, Jazzmobile is really doing it this year. So I'm not surprised to hear that the Jimmy Heath big band is there.
And the reason I know it is I went to Jazzmobile. I think it's .com, not .org. You might have to try them both. And got on the mailing list.
Mm-hmm.
And every week I get an email with what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So I know I can walk over to Grant's Tomb and hear a high-powered big band, no longer fronted by Jimmy Heath, who left us a few years ago. But it's the same band and the same charts, and I'm sure it's going to be excellent. How many times did you hear any of the Heath brothers, Stu?
You know, on record a zillion times. In person, I don't think I ever did. I don't think so. I never saw MJQ live. I don't think I ever saw them live.
Well,
on record and CD a lot.
Yeah, and on BGO and all the jazz stations all the time. So the reason I'm recommending, if you like jazz, you get on the mailing list of Jazzmobile. Well, let me tell you about a magical evening in Harlem many years ago. Dizzy Gillespie brought his band to the modified truck that was used as a stage for Jazzmobile to, I forget whether it was 135th Street or 145th Street. I think it was 145th Street.
Okay.
I don't think I need to tell people who Dizzy Gillespie is.
Oh, not on this show, you know.
And I think we should use
not on this radio station, you know. Come on.
Or Billy Taylor as a break music. This Billy Taylor was the founder of Jazzmobile. I sat in with him. And it turned out that a guy looking out the window there was called out by Dizzy as one of his first teachers. Happened to be on that block. And I tell you, people were dancing in the streets when Dizzy came on Jazzmobile.
Yeah, he was special. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I got to hear him a number of times. And he was fabulous. The next one I wanted to recommend to you is the Lincoln Center weekly email. What is happening at Lincoln Center that I found out from their weekly email? Well, Wednesday night, they are going to have a Latin multi-Grammy award-winning musician for free at Lincoln Center, 7 p.m. Wednesday. No, excuse me. I apologize. This is wrong. I think I got it from Jeff. I don't know where I got this from. It's going to be in the Rumsey Playfield in Central Park on 69th Street and 5th.
Okay.
So award-winning.
That sounds more like I've never heard of free concerts at Lincoln Center. That would be a little.
Well, you haven't heard of some of the best concerts you could ever go to. because I've been going to it for the
Free?
last three.
Wow.
For a long time, they've been having the Damrush Park in Lincoln Center with
Mhm.
free music for many years. It's a big place. Almost always the concerts are free,
Mhm.
and they've often had lots of big names. One of the things they're going to have in Damrush Park this Thursday is going to be a movie. Do you remember the surprise when last year at the Academy Awards, a Indian movie won for Best Song? The movie's called RRR.
Mhm.
Original is in Telugu, I assume, and it has English subtitles. And it's going to be playing for free. It's a Bollywood movie with a lot of singing and dancing in Lincoln Center. Later on, they are doing India Week at Lincoln Center. So they're going to be having all-star bands from India also for free, and Indian dancing also for free.
Hmm.
So go to Lincoln Center, get on their weekly free email, and you will be amazed. A few years ago, Lincoln Center decided that it gets so much public money, it has to be good to people, and started doing more and more free concerts all summer
These
long.
outdoor concerts, right there.
No,
The
no,
plaza you
some
mentioned,
of them
that's
are in
not
there too.
outdoors.
And in fact, one you should look for. I'm not sure if it's free or costs $5. They're taking over one of the big Lincoln Center auditoriums because last year they wanted to do it outside, and Jenny and I went, and it was canceled because it was so bloody hot. They didn't think it was safe for the dancers to go out at night. So they moved it indoors this year.
Okay.
And there's a whole lot of things at Lincoln Center. Major things, New York Philharmonic Orchestra type things, that are pay what you wish, starting at $5.
Wow, that's great. Okay, David, we're about at the halfway point there. We got to switch gears here for a minute and take a break. I think when we come back, I want to hear about that 2,200-year-old calculator that you did a little research on, Antikythera, I think. Is that how you pronounce it?
I'm not sure how I pronounce it, but I saw it when I was in
Yeah,
Athens in the
found
museum.
on a shipwrecked on a Greek island, a 2,200-year-old calculator that calculates lunar movements and such. And we got some more conversation just about numbers and what they mean and the import in particular, the polls that we're starting to see around elections and what to believe and what not to believe when these numbers are manipulated. But that's going to be after the break. You're listening to Community and Technology with Dave Burstein and Stu Reid on WHR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after a brief musical break.
Ever feel kind of down and out, you don't know just what to do? Living all of your days in darkness, let the sun shine through. Ever feel that somehow, somewhere you lost your way? And if you don't get a help quick, you won't make it through the day. Or could you call on Lady Day? Could you call on John Coltrane now? 'Cause they'll wash your troubles your troubles away. They'll wash your troubles away. They'll wash your troubles away. Your troubles, your troubles, your troubles, your troubles away. Yeah, they'll wash your troubles away. They'll wash your troubles away. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, we're back. Community and Technology, Dave Burstein and Stu Reid on WHCR 90.3 FM. Dave, we wanted to talk a little bit about numbers and mathematics. And not too long ago, well, actually, it's a while ago that was discovered, 1901, a 2,200-year-old computer that was found off a Greek island, something called Antikythera. What does this calculator do? It's over 2,000 years old. How does it work?
Our news, okay. First of all, it is an analog computer that nobody believed. But it's now in the history of computing that the Greeks, 2,200 years ago, were building an interesting kind of computer. And we know that because of this rusted piece of junk, or multiple pieces of junk, called the Antikythera mechanism. I've seen it. It's in the museum in Athens, and it doesn't look like much. But did you realize they had computers in Greece 2,200 years ago?
Actually, I had seen this story before, but it still is a stunning revelation that they did. Now, it looks a little bit like what were the wheels that we used to have, Dave, that did all the calculations back before we had the electronic calculators? I'm trying to think.
They were different kinds of analog computers, mostly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They went back, as far as we know, to Babbage in the middle of the 19th century.
Mm-hmm.
Ada Lovelace, who designed one that never quite worked because it was a little bit too complicated. But this was almost unbelievable, and it wasn't believed for years and years. So a lot of researchers looked at it. Why are we talking about it this week? Well, they used to my surprise, the arithmetic from gravitational wave astronomy to go into and figure out what signals were going through this mechanism, and decided it was calculating lunar months. And calculating the calendar has always been important. This was one more example of where math that you wouldn't think was at all related turns out to be at the heart of things. All these neural network stuff, the math behind it was developed over the last 100 years for hydrodynamics, fluid flows, and other challenging physics needs. And it turned out to be just the right math to do the neural networks. There's loads of examples like that. But the big one is, Stu, do you know where Einstein got his math for the general theory of relativity?
I do not know, Dave. I know he studied in Germany, or Austria, was it? But I don't know the actual root of what text did he study? Where did it come from? Break it down.
A lot of people may have heard the idea that Einstein said the universe was curved.
Mm-hmm.
Where did that come from? He used David Riemann's non-Euclidean geometry, which implied that the universe was curved, that Riemann did in his dissertation in 1870.
Mm-hmm.
Pure math, non-Euclidean geometry. How does that come into something? That was used by Einstein in general theory. The other one, another example of when pure math gave us practical results, Newton figured out how to calculate the orbit of the moon and the planets. also all the gravitational laws that went beneath that, and so on. It turned out that once you had the orbit of the moon, you could make more accurate tide tables for the British Navy and all the commercial system. So the joke until Einstein was proved out was, well, they have the new physics, but it doesn't make much difference. I'm only going to take it seriously when it improves the tide tables for the British Navy.
That's what Newton's mathematics did.
Newton did it. Einstein's now added very, very small refinement.
So now, is any of this math being used in AI, Dave?
The basic math behind neural networks was developed for high-end physics.
Mm-hmm.
And it was looking at the motion of particles in a fluid, and the particles, the math to figure out how the particles intersected with each other, turned out to be a good piece of math for figuring out how the 80 billion artificial neurons in a neural network work together. Again, you would never think, unless you happen to know it, how useful theoretical mathematics was.
Okay, now talking about useful stuff, I know that you had mentioned when we were off air, a scientist by the name of Ray Kurzweil. And apparently he, a renowned guy, you're going to tell us a little bit about what he's doing in AI, but he invented a lot of real practical stuff, including the optical character recognition software, which we use when we do scanning, text-to-speech synthesis, the electronic keyboard for instruments.
The first decent electronic piano ever built.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, that was the Kurzweil.
What's this guy doing with AI though? Kurzweil. You were talking off air about how he is talking about he's going to merge himself with AI. Dave, that sounds crazy. What is that about?
Well, that's been the dream of AI scientists since they first thought they were going to solve AI and solve the problem of intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Herb Simon, who was at Carnegie Mellon and got a Nobel Prize for his work in artificial intelligence, unfortunately died before it was possible to upload him to a computer. Ray, who is the most prominent inventor of our times, did incredible things. The first reader for the blind that you could put a book in and have it read aloud what's in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And slews of other things like that. It's been working on artificial intelligence for a few years, and he's been convinced that it will soon be good enough that we'll have to figure out the way, maybe those electrodes being put into people's brains, to merge with the computer. Now, that sounds crazy.
Yeah, it does.
But this is a guy I'm going to listen to because he came up with some of the most important practical stuff ever.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think this is crazy, at least for the next 20 years and probably for the next 200 years. But he thinks it's going to start happening somewhere between 2029, when he thinks we're going to have computers that are as intelligent as people, a controversial opinion, and 2045, when if things keep going as they have, our computers will be a billion times more powerful than that.
Wow.
And at that point can solve all the problems of humanity, including the need to merge. Is this going to come true? Well, best people in the field have totally different opinions. And some of them think that being able to do what people can do in general is decades away. You certainly can do some things. It beat the chess champion and the Go champion it passed the bar, an AI passed the bar exam questions. There's a whole lot of things that AIs can do wonderfully, and a whole lot of things they can't.
Yeah, I just saw a headline. The Apple CEO says current AIs have an IQ level of a cat. I mean, how does
Well,
that?
actually, that was Dennis Hassabis, of Google's DeepMind. He's going to win a Nobel Prize soon for what he did on AlphaFold using AI to come up with the structure of proteins. Really powerful, important work. I don't know, 2 million, mostly scientists, have downloaded the software he developed for that because it could do so many things. And you see new results almost every week coming.
But why does he say level of IQ of a cat? Where's he coming from with that, Dave?
Well, can any robot you know look on the a mountain path, see somebody walking, and figure out how its walk would have to be modified so as not to hit it? Well, a cat can. A 3-year-old baby can. So while the AIs are doing some wonderful thing with a lot of hallucinations, there's a whole lot of things they can't do yet that a child can go. In fact, some of the most interesting work in AI is looking at the work that the psychologists and neuroscientists have done over the last 30 years in the theory of knowledge, which is mostly about how a baby learns. And there's all kinds of things. I could prepare that for next week if I wanted to go into that. But a 3-year-old has learned many things that we don't know how to teach computers yet, which is one way to look at it. And Dennis
Kurt's Wild saying it's going to increase 1,000,000-fold, Dave, over the next 20 years. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, that turns Moore's law on its head. 1,000,000-fold in 20 years. That's, I mean,
well,
that's hard to even imagine what that means.
Well, he's one of the people, he just wrote a best-selling book, that are thinking about what it means. He, along with one of the founders of Google and a number of other people, are convinced that, in fact, these computers, these artificial intelligences, will be so good, they are the next evolution of intelligence. Whether they're going to treat us like we treat bugs or dogs or with respect, that's a really hard question that I'm not going to try to answer here. But Kurzweil thinks it's that you're going to have computers that are as intelligent as the average human in most, not all things, but most things, in 5 years from now. Number of people, smart people in the field, agree with them. A number of other people think it's total nonsense. We will see. I hope will still be around when this stuff happens. But his statement that we will have autonomous general intelligence and any other statement about when we will have autonomous general intelligence is basically nonsense. Stu, what's intelligence?
I think the definition is all over the place, Dave. How do you measure it? I mean, I remember, back when we were in college, all the debates around IQ and IQ testing and how it was discovered or pointed out that there was so much cultural and racial bias built into the testing for IQ, which was supposedly to measure general intelligence, that it really favored white males and no one else. And that if you weren't of the white European culture, you weren't going to do real well on an IQ test. So
it wasn't what you were born with. It wasn't because white people are smarter than black people. It was what you grew up with.
Yeah, what you were taught.
On IQ tests, there were things like a lot of definitions of words. And if you had grown up in a house where your parents read to you and you went to a good school where you read a lot of books, you were better at word puzzles that were used on the IQ test. And that's one of the sources of the bias. It turns out the people working saying that we're going to have this AGI, this autonomous general intelligence, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now, all disagree on what it means because there's so many different definitions of intelligence. The most interesting one, when I started looking at it, was a psychological model that said, really, to think about intelligence, you have to measure 9 different things. The abstract thinking that was in the old IQ test, your ability to follow people's emotions, which AI is starting to be surprisingly good at, said on the air. And there's so much involved in defining intelligence that none of the precise forecasts, including Ray's, are good. So I do not know that computers will be smarter than we are in 5 years.
Yeah.
I do know that some very smart people think so. Some other very smart people think it's pure nonsense.
Yeah. It also amazes me, Dave, that, I think you may have said earlier that someone has said that sooner or later, probably sooner, AI is going to be able to solve all of humanity's problems. And, I look at a statement like that, and I think that, ignores all of the power and the conflict and the control issues of human society and human behavior. I mean, just because you are supposedly intelligent and know things doesn't mean you're not going to destroy the planet. Doesn't mean you're not going to dominate cultures and people that will help benefit you and not them. So, I mean, there's so many political, social concerns that, from where I sit, I don't know how AI is going to address that per se. It sounds good to say it's going to solve all of humanity's problems, but how's it going to solve the issue of the guys that are getting fabulously wealthy off of AI, Dave, versus the poor folks on the other end of the spectrum that are barely getting by. I mean, it's good to say, oh, we're going to come up with these techniques to grow things, to agriculture, and this, that, and the other. But is that going to happen?
Well, next week I'll prep for you the thoughts of the best economists and best AI people about what's going to happen. And guess what? They don't agree on any of this.
Duh.
How much time do we have? Not enough time.
We just got about 3 minutes. We need to wrap it up here, Dave. We're winding down towards the end of the show. I know that.
Okay, let's go to one story that you. Yeah, one story you wanted to talk about was misinformation.
Yeah.
And where it comes from. Why don't you take that away?
Yeah, interesting story just came out that the Pentagon, of all people, surprise, surprise, working through one of its contractors, General Dynamics IT, created some 300 phony social media accounts impersonating Filipinos. This is according to Reuters. And the whole idea was to discredit China, and in particular, to discredit Chinese vaccines for the coronavirus. This is in the 2020 and 2021 timeframe. And
now, why did the U.S. care so much about that?
Well, we got crazy paranoia about China in general, and the threat that that the U.S. thinks it poses in it economically, politically, militarily. That's got to be one of the reasons.
One of the reasons, and also morally and philosophically and practically. When the vaccine was developed in America and Germany, of the billion people in Africa, only about 3 million had been vaccinated 2 years later, because the vaccine was kept by the rich countries and not shared with countries in Africa, South Asia, the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
The Chinese made a different decision, partly because their vaccine was different and easier to produce. They gave it away around the world and sold it for a fraction of the price to places like Brazil and Argentina. They also gave away face masks. Nearly all the face masks we used here in the United States were made in China. Test kits and so on, in exactly the kind of generous gesture that Jesus Christ would have approved of. We talked about walking
But
in the
not the
shoes of the
Pentagon,
fisherman.
Dave, not the Pentagon. And interestingly enough, this particular campaign, misinformation campaign, conducted by the Pentagon, was created and promulgated under the Donald Trump administration. And according to Reuters, was terminated mid-2021 by President Biden. Yeah.
I got to throw one more piece in there.
Mhm.
Turns out the Chinese vaccine, while an effective vaccine, is not as effective as the mRNA vaccines developed in Germany and the United States. But it was better than not being able to get any vaccine, which was billions of people in the world back then.
Okay.
So I think that's enough for today.
Yeah, that's enough. Another example of politics overriding intelligence. Anyway, this has been Community and Technology on WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem, with Dave Burstein and Stu Reid every Wednesday, 5 p.m. Tune in. Just might learn something. Thanks. Good night.